Let's go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Anderson County Board of Commissioners, July 17th, 2023 meeting to order. We'll start with a prayer by Commissioner Mays and the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Palmer.
Please bow your heads. Father God, we thank you so much for this beautiful day that you have given us, God, and we thank you so much for your grace and your mercy, God, and for sending your Son to die on the cross for all of us so we could have an everlasting life with you. God, I ask a special prayer for all the leaders that are in the room and leaders across the state and across the country, God, as they try to do what's right, but only do what's right in your eyes, God. God, be with us as we go out through this meeting, God. Be with our first responders as they are protecting this county, God. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll have the appearance of citizens. If anyone would like to address the commission on any issue on or off the agenda, you can do that now. Just state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. Yeah, excuse me, 1 minute. Commissioner Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we get started, Commissioner Isbell and I had a loss in our district. We had a gentleman. His name was Dwight Isbell. No relation, from my understanding. I think he can spell it a little different. But he dedicated a lot of time and effort to the town of Rocky Top in the area in the north end of the county, and was called home way too early a week or so ago. And I'd like to ask everyone to keep his family and his young son in your thoughts and prayers. And at this time, Mr. Chairman, if it would be appropriate, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence on behalf of Dwight Isbell.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Isbell, did you want to say anything?
No, the church and the family's planning some things maybe next month.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Go ahead. I'm sorry for the...
I'm Sandy Malcolm from District 2 here in Clinton. This weekend I sent emails to each of the commissioners of some research, and I will share a bit of that right now. The quotes that follow from the American Colleges of Pediatrics, Harvard, and Mayo Clinic are just a few of the voices of healthcare professionals urgently warning against a horrible social experiment. Also included are government reports from the UK, Australia, and Canada, who are about 10 years further out from this than we are. The research answers one question: what happens to a child's brain development when there is an early focus on sex? The period of early adolescence is crucial for brain development and should be free of adult concerns. Children need to have time to mature at their own individual pace. Kids are emotionally confused by sexual messages because they are simply not yet ready to be sexual. The adolescent brain lacks maturity for risk assessment until the age of 20. Children are unable to process adult sexual information and behaviors, which leaves them to just simply imitate what they see without actually understanding the consequences. Early focus on sex results in failure to develop other aspects of their personality that childhood normally affords. Children are exposed to psychological, emotional, and developmental damage. The results are significant and irreversible. Brain development in the child is arrested, resulting in lower IQ and school retention, but higher in pregnancy, STD, and suicide rates. Measurable harms include physical and sexual violence, lower self-esteem, depression, and anxiety. Saddest of all, our children will develop a warped view of healthy, intimate relationships. They will actually never know true love. A generation of super-sexualized children is created when they are exposed to sexual matters that were previously for adults only. The result of that is sexual chaos and social contagion. I add my own plea, let our kids be kids. Thank you for your help.
Hello, I'm David Malcolm from the 2nd District in Clinton. Commissioners, let's apply the research you just heard about to a book in the library. The book is entitled, Let's Talk About It. This book is shelved in the library in the adult section under sex education. The language and design of this book is for young teenagers. All of the graphic nude scenes depict children. Written instructions are combined with the graphic how-to sketches of young children engaged in oral and anal intercourse. There's examples of bondage, of multiples, and the use of dildos are also talked about in the book and presented. One deadly suggestion for stimulation involves dangling from the ceiling with ropes.
Well, we normally have a public comments portion at the beginning of the meeting. We've invited everybody to speak about issues on or off the agenda, so.
I think we ought to be very selective of who we, I think we ought to be very selective as to what we allow to be spoken of. When we're here to do business for this county, not to listen to this,
Well,
it just aggravates
Commissioner
me.
White, I
We
understand,
listen to
but-
this on a regular basis, when I think we're here to do business for this county.
well,
Go ahead.
go ahead. I think sometimes I have to listen to things I don't agree with, so I think this is.
It should be on
what part
record
of having
that
the
this
public
is business
portion.
for the county. As I was saying, one deadly suggestion is for stimulation involves dangling from ceilings with ropes. The sex ed portion of this says, be sure to bring your scissors. Sexting is also encouraged. The sex ed says, be sure to cover your face. Visiting porn sites is also encouraged. I'll read you a quote directly from the book. A great place to research fantasies and kinks safely is to do it on the internet. Look up interviews of your favorite porn performers. Go to the sites they recommend and pay for your porn. Remember, the people you see on camera deserve your respect. So there's nothing wrong with enjoying some porn. It's fun and a sugary treat, end quote. Commissioners, is that sex education for a 12 to 17-year-old child? I'd like you to look just a minute at this little bottle I have, and let's imagine this is a bottle full of arsenic poison coated with vitamin C. Commissioners, is this vitamin C good, or is this arsenic poison? Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name's Amanda Powers. I'm from District 2, 509 Eagle Bend Road. I agree with you, Commissioner White. I'm not sure if that is county commissioner business. And as far as I'm concerned, this has been going on for far too long. That's my question to you. How much longer are we going to continue to talk about this? Can we move on from this? We've been talking about books in the library for a really long time. It's called a public library for a reason. It's supposed to give public access to all in this district. Every single person, not a person based on what they believe or what they believe people should have access to. That's the only thing I'm going to ask you to ask about when people continue to bring up one book and what one book might offer to other people. He said it himself. It's in the adult section. Is this something that a 12 to 17-year-old should read? Last I checked, those aren't adults. Thank you.
My name is Nathan Mullins. I'm from Oak Ridge, and I appreciate the opportunity to clarify a few things. I respect librarians. They're very intelligent. They're very well trained. I respect the fact that you are public servants. What we have managed to achieve over the last 8 months is to provide an opportunity for this county to lead. We have managed to prove that I'm going to have to lean over if I don't, because it. Okay. So, what we have managed to prove is that, in fact, many of those books that were sex ed were, in fact, aimed at littler kids in the beginning. What we have managed, and that's evidence now because librarians told us that. What we have managed to prove is that this, in fact, is a national and becoming an international issue, not just a state issue. And as it has become apparent that the state will be addressing this before too long. So why don't we decide to come to a compromise now that we have acknowledged that there's an actual problem? Why don't we start discussing it? If instead of waiting for the big shots to come down the pike and just offer a federal dictate, why don't we lead now that we have addressed the actual situation in a brave and courageous way? I very much want to do that before we head towards Oak Ridge, because as we have, another thing that we have proven is that there is a community standard in Anderson County. My grandparents came to this Oak Ridge to work in the plant, and all of them were God-fearing. We've slipped quite a difference in those 40 years. So why don't we stand up and work together now that we have actually identified, according to Jay Yeager, proof, positive, that there is a serious problem that isn't book banning, censorship. So this isn't going away, and I would highly suggest that we all work together in an articulate, non-angry, kind way. We are not anti-gay. We said that from the very beginning. Just because the trans agenda was linked to the books, that doesn't mean we're proselytizing against that. So what I'm asking for is, instead of half the commission walking out and refusing to address the issue, let's work together to have an articulate, well thought out approach so that the entire community, including those grandparents who y'all represent, we've had.
Time's up.
Let's all help each other. Thank you very much.
Amy Poteet, and I am from Oak Ridge. And I just want to address that last meeting, 6 of you got up and walked out and did not want to listen to the presentation. As a citizen, that is bothersome to me. My representatives, both of you from District 7, were not in this room to represent me. Whether you like what's being said here, right now at this podium, does not matter. You're elected, you're appointed. You need to stay in that seat to represent us as citizens, whether you like it or you don't like what was being said. I'm very offended that 6 of you got up and walked out of this room and did not listen to those people. I understand you're tired of the book thing. I get it. We're tired of bringing it to you. I understand that they were not from Anderson County. However, they were bringing you facts. They were bringing you information to help you make educated decisions. And because you got up and walked out of this room and were not here to represent your district, that is offensive to us as citizens of this county. And I hope that you do not do that again. I hope that you understand that that was noticed and people in the county know that you got up and walked out. And that's not okay. I'm okay that you don't agree with what they were saying. I'm okay with that. I'm okay that you have your opinion. But for you to get up and not be in this room to represent us is a problem. We all need to come together. We're here trying to figure this out. Like Nathan said, it's all over the country. It's not just Anderson County. But this information is being brought to you because if this county gets sued, it's getting before you guys. You are the top of the line, along with our mayor. And I know that you guys make the final decision over everything. Our library board is broken. It's broken. If that library board is broken, what other boards are broken, you guys? Open your eyes. The librarians buy the books. Then if a problem is brought to them, somebody doesn't like the book, whether I agree with what book is brought to them or not, the first book that was brought to them, I don't agree should have been brought to them, but it was brought to them and it went through the process. If you buy the book and then I'm complaining to you, do you think that anything's going to happen with that book? No. We need to fix the boards, you guys. You're it. You're our elected officials. That's why we're coming to you. Do I think that you're going to have the answer in 1 meeting and 2 meetings? No, but we're coming to you because we elected you. Help us figure this out. That's what you're on this commission for, to help the community. You said you wanted it, you ran, you all fought hard battles. This is a battle that needs to be settled within the community. We need your voices. That's it.
Anyone else? All right, if not, we'll move on to the approval and correction of the agendas, starting with the consent agenda. Motion to approve by Commissioner Yeager, seconded by Commissioner Wandell to approve as presented. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the regular agenda. Motion by Commissioner McCamey, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge to approve. Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We got some folks here from the Fire Commission. I'd like to, if allowable, to move the Fire Commission up. It'll be brief. I'm not going to do a full-fledged report. If Mr. Chairman, you would allow maybe under item 7, make it the 5th item, if that's allowable,
Fire Commission.
under committee reports.
Okay. And Commissioner Allen, did you, under old business, you want an update on the Miller?
Yes, the update on the Miller Yeager case.
Okay.
Yes. For old business.
Then on the executive session, we'll need a motion to go into executive session later, but we're, do we want to keep that? Do we want to have the executive session at the end of the mayor's report, or do we want to move that after the law director report, or after item 11?
On I'll make a motion to move it to, after 11.
Okay, so we'll put we'll still need to vote to go into it, but we'll put that at item 11-3. Okay, executive session. Any other corrections or changes to the agenda? Okay, let's go to the board and vote then to approve the regular agenda as corrected. Motion passes unanimously. All right, item 5, we've got elections, starting with nominating committee report. Chairman Mays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nominating committee met on July the 10th to appoint the 6 positions for the opioid stewardship task force. And the committee nominated Commissioners Beauchamp, Wells, Vandergriff, Mays, Anderson, and Isbell. And
Motion to approve by Commissioner Yeager, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, the first meeting of the task force, as of right now, will be August the 14th, at 5 p.m. in room 312. And that is all from nominating.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item, we have the juvenile court judge applicant appointment. Commissioner McCamey.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate 3 individuals, Mr. Dunkirk, Ms. Watson, and Mr. Elrod.
A motion by Commissioner McCamey, seconded by Commissioner Mays, to accept these 3 nominations. Any discussion? Do we have any nominations from the floor? All right, let's go to the board and vote to accept these, and then we'll begin the interview process. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, at this point, we'll start with Mr. Dunkirk. If you want to come to the podium and give us your name and address and tell us about yourself, and then you'll have 3 minutes, and then we'll take questions from commissioners.
Thank you. My name is David Dunkirk. I live at 145 Cumberland View Drive in Oak Ridge. I've lived in Oak Ridge since 1997. I've been practicing law since 1986, and I started in the litigation forum. I was worked at a firm that defended slip and falls and fender benders, and went from there to a place where I represented doctors and chiropractors, and also I worked for, I did products liability and represented an elevator and escalator company, learned about those. I've also worked as a labor lawyer. I was a lawyer for the county up in Washington on labor and employment issues, everything, the whole spectrum of those. Came out here in 1997 and practiced on my own. I'm a Rule 31 mediator. I like to help people resolve their issues without having to go to court, if I possibly can. But in 2010, I accepted my first appointment to the juvenile court, and I became a guardian ad litem, which is the person that speaks to the court in the children's best interests. I then also began taking parent attorney appointments, where I would represent father or mother. And these are cases where there are families in crisis. You have a situation where, for one reason or another, children have been separated from their parents. And often because the parents have lost their way a little bit, perhaps their priorities have gotten a little bit confused for whatever reason. It can be any number of reasons. And sometimes for no reason at all, other than the fact that the child has an issue that is so complex that the usual common sense that can get parents through most issues isn't quite enough. And they need to ask for the state's help so that they can handle a kid who is severely autistic or any number of issues. But these are problem-solving cases. They are, and my role in the court has been to try to help these families get through this rough patch in their family's life as quickly as possible and go back to being a family. I find the work most rewarding. It doesn't pay very well. We make, by lawyer standards, we make $50 an hour. And, but we are, in some cases, you have a chance to make a difference in somebody's life. And that's most gratifying. And I would like to steward the court through the time that Judge Hunt is gone. He's been doing a fine job. But I think the county needs somebody that is used to the issues that come before this court. I've been practicing in this court for over 12 years now, and it is the longest stretch that I have practiced in any area of law, because it is the area that means the most to me. I ran for judge in 2016, and I didn't succeed, but I said during the campaign that if I didn't win the campaign, that I would continue practicing in that court, because that is the work that I consider the best fit for what I bring to the table as a lawyer and as an advocate. So that's me in a nutshell, and I would welcome any questions you might have.
Questions for Commissioner Yeager?
Thank you. Mr. Dunkirk, community mediation, do you work with them or through them, or are familiar with them?
I have been a mediator for community mediation.
Oh, for them? Okay.
Yes, before I started working in the court.
Great. Okay, that's what I was hoping for. Thanks.
Commissioner Mays.
Mr. Dunkirk, thanks for putting in. Good to see you again. Since 2010, since you started practicing in the court, have you had an opportunity to serve as a special judge or magistrate during that time?
No.
Okay. If not, what skills do you think will make you ready day one?
I am intimately acquainted with the issues that come before the court on a daily basis. I've handled a couple hundred cases, and so I've seen most everything that comes before the court. I've also spoken to Judge Hunt, and I've asked him that if I am appointed, if I could pick his brain for a while. I may even call Judge Fisher, our old friend, and I'm not afraid to ask questions. But I know that court. That is my court, and I feel like the amount of hours that I've spent there working with families, working with kids, is the foundation of what I would do if I'm appointed as a judge.
Commissioner Beauchamp.
Yes, I have a couple of different questions. I'm going to start off. I'm going to ask everybody the same question, so it's not going to be like trick questions or anything. How many pending cases do you have currently on your caseload that need to be adjudicated?
I'd say 12 to 15.
Okay.
I lightened my load. My wife retired from her job at the end of last year, and so I stopped taking as many appointments as I had been, because I had been on her insurance, and I might need to get a job where I could get covered. So I have deliberately tried to lighten my load.
Are you willing and available to take calls, respond after hours, weekends regarding urgent detention and child protection matters?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you feel about holding DCS accountable, removing children from the home or placing them back in the home against their advice?
I've worked with DCS for 12 years that I've been working with the court. They are extraordinarily hardworking, and they have, in many cases, an impossible task to do. And sometimes they might lose the forest for admiring the trees. And that there have been instances like that when I've worked as a parent's attorney. And in those situations, I certainly had no problem taking issue with what DCS would do.
And I have one more. How do you feel about placing juvenile delinquent children into custody?
Sometimes that's the only alternative. That's the only alternative. Sometimes the behaviors that you see need an extraordinarily structured environment so that the young person can figure out that maybe they can't call the shots in their life.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wills.
When you ran in 2016, were you running as an independent, or if not, what political party were you affiliated with?
I ran as a Democrat.
Any other questions for Mr. Dunkirk? Oh, Commissioner Allen.
Yeah, when you were running against Judge Hunt? Was that your opponent during that time?
We were in separate primaries.
Separate primaries?
So I was in the Democratic primary, he was in the Republican primary. He won his primary, I did not win mine.
Okay, I see. You're just very, very familiar. I was wondering how that
Yes,
came across.
we all shuttled together to the
Okay.
various command performances that a political candidate has
With
to.
the
has to
League of
do.
Women's Voters?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I remember that. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McCamey.
Mr. Dunkirk, how many children have you been guardian ad litem for? Just a rough estimate?
Boy.
I know you've been,
At least
quite a
100.
few of the kids that I've had in
Yeah.
foster care, you've been their guardian ad litem.
At least 100, and, you know, some families had more than one kid, so, that, you know, I don't keep track. But it's, I've seen several go through to adoptions, which is
Right.
gratifying. But to put a number on it, I think I'd be inviting myself to make an error.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunkirk, and we'll move next to Mr. Elrod.
Today I stand before you with profound gratitude and a deep sense of purpose as an applicant to serve for Judge Hunt while he serves our country for the next 9 months. As an attorney who's dedicated their career to advocating for justice and the well-being of people, I'm happy to extend my commitment and serve as a stable force for the Juvenile Court of Anderson County while the elected judge serves our country. So I'm deeply honored to even submit my application. First, a little bit about me, 124 Lone Ridge Lane, Clinton, Tennessee. Lived there for about, I guess, 5 years. Before that, I was over in Worthington Downs. Before that, I was in Hunter's Trail, so I've come up like anybody else. I have a wife of 25 years, 23 to 25 years, Elisa Elrod. She's my pride and joy. And then I have 3 wonderful children. Savannah, who's finishing up at Belmont, Shelby, who is a sophomore at UT, and Sawyer, who is 9. So, I know kids. Next, a little bit about me. I submitted my resume with my application. You have to answer any questions in regards to that. But I've represented a lot of people in my 20-year career now in Anderson County and really, frankly, many more in East Tennessee and the great state of Tennessee. And all across the state. I've always said that I love helping people who have been injured, but my passion has always been domestic law. Domestic law is not just juvenile court, but juvenile court plays a large part of domestic law. Juvenile court is the place that takes exclusive and original jurisdiction over unwed parents who have had children out of wedlock. They are the original jurisdiction court for issues of dependency and neglect. This is where you see your abuse come in. This is where you see, as one commissioner has stated, well, what happens when children go into custody? Well, in that regard, I would say that the law provides the answer. And the law says is when a child is taken into custody through the department, you have to have a 3-day hearing. And at that 3-day hearing, the standard of review that the judge uses during that hearing is quite different from the standard of review that they use when they adjudicate and then decide the case. So that's important to know. I would end with this. I'm not seeking election to this position. It's not my intent. I'm here to serve my county for Judge Hunt. I have a successful practice, and I feel like it's important to maintain the stability of the court while Judge Hunt's gone. We all know school's getting ready to start. That increases the workload of the juvenile court. Whoever the successful applicant is will need to hit the ground running and understand the process of handling a volume court that we have here in Anderson County and adjudicating with dignity and respect all children, all parents that come before that court so that they can be heard. Because these matters that are in the juvenile court, as Mr. Dunkirk has mentioned, are serious. And they have lifelong effects. which is why that juvenile system sometimes seems slow. But we're wanting to get it right. And as the judge, you have to steer that. And you have to steer it on a volume basis. You have to steer it day in and day out. And you have to be committed. So those are my big talking points. I'm happy to answer your questions and talk to you some more.
Questions for Mr. Elrod?
Yeah, Mr. Elrod,
Or Commissioner Mays?
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Commissioner.
thank you. Why are you able to handle this volume that's coming down the pipe here?
Well, I think as an owner of a very successful practice that practices in personal injury law, we practice domestic law, we practice criminal law, we handle a volume of cases. We are available 24/7. Those are the same guiding principles and work ethic that I will bring to that court. It's, you know, when you have a child that could have been, you know, for whatever reason, taken into DCS custody in the middle of the night, you might get a phone call. You have to answer the phone call. Just like in my business, if somebody needs my help and it's a code red emergency, I've got to take that call. That call's going to get to me, and I'm going to go do the job. That's what has prepared me to handle the volume that is in that court. And the volume, interestingly enough, that's in that court is not just dependency and neglect, but it's so much more in the juvenile court. It's also juvenile justice, where our children maybe have a run-in with the law. You have to be able to work with the DA's department. They're going to be in there. You have the Department of Children's Services, so you have juvenile justice there. And those cases just always don't get resolved. But the judge has to provide the guidance. They have to provide the direction to move the case or adjudicate the case so that the people can move on with their lives. So I hope that's a long-winded question, long-winded answer to a short question.
Commissioner Mays?
Good evening, Mr. Elrod. Thank you for putting in. Same question. Since you've been practicing in juvenile court, have you had the opportunity to sit as a special judge or magistrate? And if not, what makes you ready for this? And if so, you know, talk about those experiences.
Thank you. Great question. I think it's a very important question. My career has, as I mentioned, has spanned 20 years. But I cut my teeth in Judge Bill Swan's court in Knox County, and he is the domestic violence, domestic relations court in Knox County. I sat in there just as a baby lawyer, listening to my fellow professionals, and Judge Swan ruled on many cases. Ultimately, I started practicing in that court, and then ultimately Judge Swan asked me to serve as a special master for him. I did that for 2 years. I think my resume reflects that, and in that time I probably 150, 200 pro se litigant cases, and those are tough because they don't have lawyers and they're just in there to speak their piece, and then, you know, they need a decision. But also in those cases, in doing those cases, it's not just domestic violence. You also have issues of custody that go on them as well, and the statute provides that in a domestic violence type of case, you can adjudicate some of the co-parenting time, maybe put a presumptive child support order down so the children are taken care of, so about 200 or so there. And then, of course, I have set for 3 judges here in Anderson County, Meldrum, Fisher, and Judge Hunt. I've been very honored for them to ask me to step in for them when they needed to go on vacation or they had some other commitments, and I was happy to do that, and I think I did it adequately enough where we didn't get any complaints or nothing happened. And so that's always a good thing. So I've done that many times. So I guess when it comes to the issue of, you know, what's your experience on the bench, it is substantial. But more importantly, and what I'd like to highlight is it's a well-rounded experience, because I've had the opportunity to be a guardian ad litem. I've had the opportunity to be a special prosecutor here in Anderson County at the request of Judge Hunt. I've had the opportunity to work against the department and work with the department, depending on my client's needs. I've had the opportunity to do some, unfortunate terminations and adoptions, and that's a big part of it too. As I said, juvenile court is not in a box. It touches upon all things. So I think experience-wise, I've seen a few things.
Thank you.
Same questions to you, Mr. Elrod. How many pending cases do you have on your caseload that need to be adjudicated?
That's a great question, and in anticipation of tonight, I called the Board of Judicial Conduct because I wanted to make sure that, whoever the applicant is, I think it's important for the commission to know, there are some rules that you have to subscribe to. One of them is that, and that's what the board told me today, this morning, was that you cannot practice law while you're there. You have 180 days to get out of any case that you could be in that court. But I think more importantly, the bigger rule is you cannot practice law. And thankfully, I'm in that position where I don't have to do that. To answer your question, I have 0 in the juvenile court. I have 1 domestic case in Chancery Court, and I'll withdraw from that. But all my other cases are done through my firm, and so other lawyers handle them, so there's no conflicts there. The next thing that the Judiciary Board told me was that the judge, especially in these situations, always needs to be cognizant of a bias or a conflict that may give the appearance of impropriety. And what that means is, if you have an active practice in Anderson County and one of your former clients comes before you with a different lawyer, well, you probably need to recuse yourself at that point. And what that does is it takes that case and it causes the court to have to refer it out maybe to another judge, maybe Judge Edmondson or Judge Irwin, but there is a delay. And that's kind of not what we want to do in juvenile court. So I hope that answers that question.
Okay, next question. Are you willing and available to take calls and respond after hours and on weekends regarding urgent detention and child protection matters?
24/7, 365, that's, I'm available.
Okay, and next question. How do you feel about holding DCS accountable regarding removing children from the home or placing children back in the home if DCS doesn't agree?
The law speaks to that. The law provides that when a child's removed, a permanency process is begun. And in that permanency process, the department has certain requirements to show that they have to show that they're making reasonable efforts, they're making best efforts for the true purpose of juvenile court, which is reunification and rehabilitation of these kids. So the department is held to those standards by the law. The judge's job is to interpret the law, and more importantly, apply the law on the books to the case in front of them. So if the department is not, getting their they're not getting their workers out, maybe they're not providing appropriate services in the home, maybe they're not doing whatever it is, then the court system has a system of checks and balances that they have to prescribe to. So do I have a problem holding the department accountable? No, not at all.
And next question. I know you kind of answered this in your speech. How do you feel about placing juvenile delinquent children into custody?
The law provides in juvenile law that we need to rehabilitate, but it also provides that they will be held accountable. And if accountability is custody in some regard, maybe that is appropriate. But these are fact-intensive cases, and a general answer won't apply. Mm-hmm. They're all fact-intensive, and so if the child needs to be in custody, have we made our best efforts for reunification? Have we sought other resources in the county? Like a family member or distant or otherwise, who can take this child while these parents are, rehabilitating themselves. So is there a problem there? No, there's not, because that's what the law says.
Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Earl, thank you for your service. Thank you for your willingness to step up, and I understand that you're not doing it for the money. And you're definitely not doing it, to run for another position. And looking at your resume, and when you set in for Judge Swan in the early 80s, at that time, it was attorney Don Ellis, before he became a judge, who was my attorney, and we went for custody. And I was awarded custody of a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. But the things that Judge Swan put us through, each one of us, it wasn't just a matter of going in and listening to he said, she said. We did that first in another judge's court, but then Judge Swan changed the whole bar of the way to do things, you know, through mental evaluations for the parents, for the children, and all these things that you got to go through. And for you to be able to say it, for him to ask you, I mean, I have the highest regards for Judge Swan. But I really appreciate what you do about giving back to the community. He always has, and I think that's what this is stepping up. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Elrod.
Thank you.
And last we have Ms. Watson.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Sarah Watson. I am at 113 Malvern Road in Oak Ridge. Before becoming an attorney, I did have another career. I was a business professional, and during that time period, I had the opportunity to actually work in West Africa after a civil war in the country of Liberia. I watched that country rebuild itself. Due to that experience, I became very impressed with what this country had to do in order to overcome or sidestep issues and develop as a country. It made me want to respect and basically protect our legal system and our rule of law. So therefore, when I came back to Tennessee, I decided to become a lawyer and went to law school. During the law school experience, I did do internships with the Anderson County District Attorney's Office, but also the Federal Prosecutor's Office. But ultimately, I decided to practice in domestic relations and juvenile justice law. The foster care system has actually affected and impacted my family. When my mother was very young, when she was 19 years old, she and my oldest aunt were actually serving actively in the Air Force, but by that time, they actually had lost both of their parents, tragically. Their 3 younger siblings were actually still minors during that time period. None of the family members were actually able to take all 3 siblings and keep them together. So as a result, my aunt at age 21 decided to become their legal custodian while she was serving in the Air Force. However, during that time period, she had to be deployed overseas, and the children could not go with her. So therefore, the arrangement was made through the court system and with the military working together that my aunt would be deployed to Puerto Rico, and my 3 youngest aunts and uncles, they were actually placed in a foster home in Puerto Rico. And through that experience with my family, I saw that there is the ability, when we're working together with the court system, to actually work with families on a one-on-one basis, to look at them and find solutions, sometimes outside the box thinking, but to find solutions that work with families. The juvenile court system needs to be working with families individually, take into account their whole consideration. I've been working in the juvenile court system since approximately almost exclusively within the juvenile court system since about 2016. I started in the Anderson Juvenile Court when Judge Hunt was already on the bench. I've worked extensively with the Anderson court system staff, including Judge Hunt's assistant. My role, if I were to be selected, it's a temporary position. My job is not to disrupt the pattern of the court system, is to make sure that the court system continues to be run as Judge Hunt intends it and as he has already laid out. Because he is coming back and he serves many years left on his term. When he does come back, the court system needs to be maintained as it is. And I'm very familiar with the court staff already before the court and also the private bars that practice in that court. Since 2018, I have actually been the attorney for the Department of Children's Services. I've practiced extensively within multiple juvenile court systems, and I've had the experience to learn from multiple juvenile courts all throughout, and their judges all throughout East Tennessee. I have not practiced extensively before the Anderson Juvenile Court since 2018. So therefore, I have extremely few conflicts with that court system as it is. And if I were to be selected to be this temporary judge, I would actually resign from the Department of Children's Services. I would use this as a professional development opportunity, and then I would pivot to a different area of the law. Thank you.
Questions for Ms. Watson? Commissioner Mays.
Ms. Watson, thank you for applying. And on your resume, I saw Judge Edmondson's name, and I don't know if anybody knows Judge Edmondson, but you don't find a better man. He is a phenomenal person and a phenomenal judge. So I'm just going to ask the same question that I asked to the other two, is since you've worked in juvenile court, have you ever been appointed as a special judge or magistrate? And if not, I know you've already alluded to some, but what skills and experiences do you have that will make you ready day one when you walk in?
Absolutely. I have not at this time period. However, my role as the Department of Children's Services attorney is to make sure that the department is able to meet its burden of proof in every single case and as to every element of the law before we ever file a petition either to remove a child or to control the conduct within a family. And it is my job to make sure that the department is not sued in federal court, to protect the case workers in the department from being financially liable. If the DCS attorney fails at that job, the DCS attorney themselves can actually be included in that federal lawsuit. I had a previous supervisor before I hired on with the department. When he was working as the DCS attorney, he was looped into one of those federal lawsuits. He won. So the amount of training that we do in order to make sure that we're able to fulfill every single element of a removal or a petition is extraordinary to protect the state of Tennessee and also the workers and employees with the department and also ourselves.
Thank you.
Commissioner Beauchamp.
Same question, Ms. Watson. How many pending cases do you have on your caseload that need to be adjudicated?
Well, working with the government, hundreds. To be very honest, I was actually calculating how many hearings I have this week alone, and it's 55 hearings this week. Yeah. But before the being with the government, if I were to resign, another attorney would be offering coverage for those hearings, so it would not affect the adjudication of those individual cases. Before the Anderson County Juvenile Court, there is a DCS attorney for Anderson County that occasionally will have a conflict. One of those cases is nearing the end of his life, and I was covering that, so that would be one conflict that would go to, that would have to be given to an interchange judge. There's a second case that's already being heard by Judge Wolfenbarger on the conflict docket, so that case would not have to go to a different judge. And there is actually a child that's in the full guardianship of the state. The biological parents' parental rights were terminated. I acted as guardian ad litem for that child. So I would have to ask the state, the department, and also the current guardian ad litem whether or not they would waive the conflict or if it needed to be transferred to another judge.
Are you willing and available to take calls to respond after hours and weekends regarding urgent detention and child protection matters?
Absolutely. Actually, for being an East Tennessee DCS attorney, I'm already on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I have my work phone with me beside Ms. Uribe right there. I actually got a text this morning at 1:17 a.m., and I have been awake since that time period. And to actually also to elaborate, I have drafted petitions on the weekends and after hours. I have gone to judges' houses with those petitions. I've gone to where they need to meet, sometimes as a hair salon, sometimes that's the parking lot of the courthouse. But I've also did removals unfortunately on holidays as well.
Okay. Don't mean to put you on the spot here, but how do you feel about holding DCS accountable regarding removing children from the home or placing children back into the home if DCS doesn't agree?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, there are cases when I'm not an employee of the department, I am the attorney for the department. I have to hold the department accountable every single case. There's a very unique case that I'm covering in another county when I was in the conference room with the case manager, their team leader, which is their supervisor, the team coordinator, the regional deputy of the CPS, and her boss, along with the DCS psychologist and the DCS nurse, and they want to remove that child. And I was the only other person in that room as their legal representative that told them, no, you cannot legally remove that child. That child is still with the family, and we're working services, but that was not a removal. I have done this repeatedly, multiple times. It is very common practice when I tell them not to remove a child. I had a case one time a couple of years ago. I remember it because it was Super Bowl Sunday. It was around 8 o'clock at night, and I get a phone call. It's a Sunday night, of course, and they want to place a child, an infant, a newborn, into foster care for the sole purpose of transporting that child to East Tennessee Children's Hospital to do a spinal tap because they could not get a hold of the mother. They've been unable to get a hold of the mother for a couple of hours, and they want to do the spinal tap on the possibility that the child might have meningitis. I told them no, absolutely not. That was not going to happen. The possibility of the child being sick does not outweigh the mother's right or the parent's right to actually talk and be able to make those decisions on behalf of her own child.
Last question, how do you feel about placing juvenile delinquent children into custody?
Sometimes that has to happen, and is unfortunate, but is very serious. Delinquency matters have a very wide spectrum, however, and I think that placing a child into detention or into foster care because of delinquent or unruly behaviors, those need to be reserved for the cases that cannot be resolved through other means. I've dealt, when I was a private attorney, I've actually represented delinquencies and delinquent minors, and there's usually a lot of times underlying issues that lead to that cause these children to develop delinquent behaviors. I've had a child that kept getting into altercations and assaults at school, only to find out after digging deeper that the reason the child has these physical outbursts is because at night his mother unfortunately has an alcoholism problem and physically beats the child. So the next day when the child goes to school, then the child is triggered by any minor thing. The child physically lashes out the way he's been conditioned to. This is not, to say he's not responsible and accountable for his behaviors, but understanding what some of the root causes of those behaviors are can help this child resolve those issues. That child was ultimately removed from his mother and was living with an adult sister, and instantly after being removed from the home and placed with his adult sister, all of those behaviors disappeared. No more assaults. And he's actually in family therapy with his mother right now.
Commissioner Barron.
Yeah, what kind of law do you think you'll go into after this?
I've actually thought potentially about criminal law. I did do some internships when I was in law school. I also have a deep passion for just protecting the citizenry. So I thought about potentially trying to pivot into that direction.
So you're willing to give up all your experience and years of child protective services?
It's a different way to serve. I don't consider it giving it up. I consider it expanding my skill base and therefore growing as an attorney and continuing to evolve and grow as an attorney. And I just believe in serving the people.
Thank you.
Commissioner Allen.
Yes. How did your work in West Africa help you to pivot to what you want to do now in child services and on the bench there?
Right.
Yeah. How did that shape you? What did you see there that really?
What I saw there was 90% unemployment. What I saw there was a country that went to war with itself in a civil war that they completely destroyed their entire electrical system. They were throwing grenades and bombs into their water pipes and blowing them up. So that by the time that the country was pivoting and becoming had regained peace, they didn't have any type of infrastructure at all, and they had no type of almost no formal employment at all. the company I was with, the rubber operation, we had to build our own roads and bridges. We had to build our own hydroelectric dam. But also because of that, I also saw rampant corruption. I saw that in order to get a form that would be free at basically the equivalent of the DMV, you had to bribe the clerk to get the free form to fill it out. I saw an untold number of pain and suffering. In seeing that and realizing that there is such a mentality almost that of people normalizing the lawlessness, that and not even realizing that there's another way, or have leaders that would adhere to the laws that were written as they are written. I saw that it was incredibly important to make sure that our laws are abided by to the letter, and therefore hold public servants and government highly accountable.
That Civil War contained children,
Yes.
soldiers. That's probably one of the things that was so tragic. They had children, fighting and killing. How did that shape you, knowing that these children had been abused that way?
The operation I was with actually had to create housing for all of our employees. We had to build a hospital just to be able to do minor individual things. Seeing the pain and suffering of the children, it actually, you can almost tell the child soldiers because of their demeanor. But it's a tragedy. I mean, you could see the victims, because if they didn't want to join, they would cut off a hand or they'd cut off their arm or the elbow. You can physically see which ones tried not to serve. But you see them, and you see them when they have an opportunity at being gainfully employed, they're taking it. I mean, they're grasping it as hard as they can, and trying to improve their lot in life. And just seeing that, again, that's something that I would consider a traumatic experience. I saw things that I don't ever think I would ever want to see again. I saw videos of the tortures that were done because that was part of our education process, because those individuals that conducted those torture operations were in the parliament. So you had to know who you were dealing with. It was a very scarring experience.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Watson.
Thank you.
Okay. Annette, do you have the ballots? So we'll need 9 votes. If we don't get it on, nobody gets 9 votes on the first ballot, we'll eliminate the lowest vote getter and vote again. Commissioner Wendell.
Answer my question.
We're gonna do paper ballots.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we do paper ballot.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of paper ballots? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
How many were opposed?
No.
2? Okay.
We'll have to have about 10 minutes to go downstairs and make them, so.
Okay. We'll take a 10-minute recess and come back and vote. I thought we were gonna do paper ballots. For judge or for, no, we didn't.
No, we used paper
did
ballots.
paper last time.
Huh? The last time we had No, well, Robert, we had paper ballots. We did.
I could've got all y'all to smoke.
everybody back in. Oh, you're fine. I think we're still waiting on her. We still don't have the ballots. So. Commissioner Wendell, do you have another?
Mr. Chairman, would it be possible we could just continue business and move on to the trustees' report, and then when Jeff gets back, we can get to the vote?
He's coming right now.
As long as 10 minutes, buddy. That's the longest 10 minutes.
Me too. I want to vote for 2 people.
Jeff, are you swearing in the person tonight, or when does that?
I talked to Jay, and I think we'll do it here in a day or two.
Okay.
Some other people. All right, you ready? Aaron Wales, Elrod. Vandergriff, Dunkirk. Isabel, Elrod. Commissioner Waddell, Elrod. Commissioner Beauchamps, Dunkirk. Commissioner Yeager, Dunkirk. Commissioner Bow, Elrod. Commissioner Allen, Watson. Commissioner White, Watson. Commissioner Palmer, Elrod. Commissioner Foster, Elrod. Commissioner McCamey, Dunkirk. Commissioner Mays, Elrod. Commissioner Smallridge, Dunkirk. Commissioner Anderson, Dunkirk. Commissioner Barron, Watson.
David Dunkirk is 6. Timothy Elrod is 7. Sarah Watson is 3.
So we need to do one more vote.
I'll vote till we get it, yep.
Take another ballot.
You want me to keep these separated, or how do we do that?
And this will be between Elrod and Dunkirk.
Commissioner White, Dunkirk. Commissioner Allen, Elrod. Commissioner Foster, Elrod. Commissioner Palmer, Elrod. Commissioner Mays, Elrod. Commissioner Smallridge, Dunkirk. Commissioner Anderson, Dunkirk. Commissioner Val, Elrod. Commissioner Yeager, Elrod. Commissioner Beauchamps, Dunkirk. Commissioner Isbell, Elrod. Commissioner Barron, Dunkirk. Commissioner Wales, Elrod. Commissioner Vandergriff, Dunkirk. Commissioner Waddell, Elrod. And Commissioner McCamey, Dunkirk.
Seven for Dunkirk and 9 for Elrod.
We have a winner.
Nine's it.
Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Elrod.
I think all three of these candidates was excellent. Amen, brother. We was in good hands either way. Yes, thank you.
Next, we'll move to the departmental reports. We'll start with the trustees' report by Trustee Regina Copeland.
Good evening. I don't envy you all at all. You have some hard decisions to make. I have 2 reports to give tonight, and I want to take just a brief minute because we do have so many new commissioners. I would like to just explain the reports that I have to give. These are, I give these according to law. The first one that I'm going to go over is the one releasing me from the 2021 delinquent property taxes that was turned over. We turned them over at the last of March. And by law, those stay in my office for about 17 and a half months when they go out. And then by law, I am required to turn those over to a delinquent tax attorney and to the clerk and master. So that was done on the 2021 taxes on the folks that did not pay those. And the amount on that was $472,005.94. This is I, Regina Copeland, trustee of Anderson County, have complied with the laws relative to filing reports of delinquent and insolvent taxpayers for the 2021 suits for the collection of said taxes have been instituted into Chancery Court of Anderson County, Tennessee. I ask that I hereby be relieved of liability for collection of delinquent taxes turned over to the clerk and master of Anderson County for the 2021 tax year with a total of, and I gave you that total already, this total includes all real, personal, and utility taxes. The majority of it was real taxes. We had 21,584 that was personal property taxes, and then we had 0 this time that was utility tax. So I come before you to ask for you to relieve me of the collections because it's now been turned over to the clerk and master and the delinquent tax attorney for collection on those.
Motion by Commissioner Wandell, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge, to relieve the trustee of
Yes, Mr.
those
Chairman,
taxes.
Make a motion that we accept the report given by the trustee to relieve the liability for the collection of delinquent taxes for year 2021 with a total amount of $472,005.94. That's my motion.
Any other discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
I do want to add that I went back several years, and that is the least that has been turned over to clerk and master. Even though it sounds like it's a lot, it is the least that has ever been, or has been turned over in many years for collection by the delinquent tax attorney and the clerk and master. We worked really hard, and we collected over 99% taxes this for 2021 for Anderson County. It was actually 99.27 percent, and I just want to say I've got a phenomenal staff, and in saying that, I also want to thank each of you for recently giving them the raise that you gave them. They work hard for that, and I appreciate it. It didn't go unnoticed, and I thank you all for that. Keeping a good staff is important, I think, and turnover, I feel like, costs the county more than actually paying good employees a decent wage. So I want to say thank you for that. The second report that I give, and I give Johnny a hard time over this because I tell him I think he should be the one that has to give this report, not me. This is, it's assessment changes that are made by the property assessor. And the reason I have to give them, of course it's by law, but the reason that we give them is it's assessment changes that was made after the tax roll was downloaded to me. So once that there's an assessment change, whether it be maybe a house burned and they had to go out and reassess it, of course the taxes are going to drop. That change order has to come to my office. We have to make changes in the tax roll that way. Maybe one was deleted by accident and they go back in and pick it up. That change has to be made by my office. So that's what the list of changes that you have in your packet, that's what all of those are. Some of them are deletions, but the majority of them are pickups. And I think with the total of deletions and additions to the tax roll was took us to the positive $126,372.87. And what this report is it's asking the total tax be released. This is based on the information that we received from the property assessor for any change to assessment, which includes all districts for the rates from October 1st, 2021 through March 30, 2023. So anytime that there's that assessment change by Johnny, or by the property assessor's office, it's done in my office after the tax roll is downloaded to me, that we can't make any changes. It all goes on this report. And that's what you all are looking at. Did I explain that okay?
Got a
Clear as
motion.
mud?
Got a motion to accept that report
Yes,
and
Mr.
release
Chair-
the. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the report from the trustee for the release of the 2021 property taxes and property assessor changes in the assessments. Total to be released is $126,372.87.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion 15 yes, 1 abstention. Motion passes.
Okay. That's got both of those. Did anybody have any questions for me? I also wanted to add the commissions that we turned over this year, and our fees was 1.7 million. That's more than double what our budget actually was. So I wanted to throw that out there too.
Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regina, I just want to again say thank you. Your leadership shows through I love the way you give credit to the workers in your department, and I also appreciate you making the comments to the commission about the raises. We'd certainly love to give them every year if we can, and hopefully with your stewardship, the mayor and everybody will be able to do it on in, well into the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll move on to the purchasing report. Robbie Holbrook, Finance Director.
Thank you, Chairman Anderson. On the purchasing agenda, there were 6 contracts that were approved by the law director, 4 EMS tuition, 1 Norris Library Comcast agreement, and 1 violent crime intervention grant, seeking approval as a group.
Motion by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Yeager to approve as a group. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Oh, Commissioner Wandell.
Just a quick question. Robbie, on these EMS contracts here, these are new folks, I guess?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, under contracts pending law director approval, there were none. C, other business. There were 2 items, the surplus real estate on Highway 25W in Rocky Top and the surplus of old drug evidence building as requested by Commissioner Mays. Both were deferred to next month. Under new business, there was 1 Norris Healthcare EMS contract. It's a 2-year contract for transportation services and now has been approved by the law director.
Motion by Commissioner Mays for approval, seconded by Commissioner Varon. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Under old business, the Crossroads Cross Fellowship Church, the purchase of the property for new Claxton Elementary School. This was already approved in the June 22nd special call meeting. Just added this to the agenda to have it approved in a regular session meeting as well.
Motion for approval by Commissioner Wandell, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, and for information only, there were 7 vehicles sold on GovDeals, total $28,434. Starting bids all were $400. And that's all I have on the purchasing agenda. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Next, we'll skip to the operations report. Chairman is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first one we're going to read, but the rescue squad decided to go in a different route. But I'll go ahead and read it. Commissioner McCamey made a motion to approve the land lease for the Anderson County Rescue Squad of a 10-year lease, with option to renew another 10 years. Now the land to be surplus back to the county pending the school board's approval. Seconded by Commissioner Mays. Motion passed forward to full commission for approval. And I understand, Mr. Chairman, is that they decided to go to a different location that was being given to them by Winrock.
There's a little bit of an update on that. They're going to go out with the building commissioner to make sure the setbacks on that small piece of property on the south side of Dutch Valley Road is adequate. And I think they will lean towards that. But as soon as Mr. Allen gets with the building commissioner, we are able to determine if that's proper for that shed to be there. It's got a setback from the railroad on the back side, Dutch Valley Road from the front. Then they may go ahead and entertain this lease again. So that's still ongoing.
Okay, but it's been approved by the school board as well.
Yeah, the school board took it up in a work session and had it on their action item for the school board main meeting, but it's not been voted on. I didn't see a problem there. I don't think Dr. Parasol, they took it up at the workshop.
Do we need to go ahead and vote on this so in case they do? So.
If you want to, that'd be fine. We'll be ready to
Okay.
go. Got the lease ready.
Got a motion by Commissioner McCamey, seconded by Commissioner Varon. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote.
Could you repeat that again, please?
That
The motion.
the motion was to approve the lease agreement, the tentative agreement from
Tentative agreement.
operations. And what was the location?
With the school board.
Through
It's,
the- Old Donovan
Yep.
School, yeah.
this old gymnasium.
Mhm.
There's a piece of property that the Marlow Fire Department has that's on one side of the road. This is directly across the road. It's not a part of what Marlow was using. I know there was a misunderstanding about them being housed with the fire department, but that's not going to be the case. They're going to be across the road from the fire department.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, Madam Mayor, Commissioner Mays made a motion for the full commission for approval to add quarterly county commission meetings, January, April, July, and October, beginning at 9:30 a.m. with the public hearing portion beginning at 9 a.m. Seconded by Commissioner Allen, motion passed.
Got a motion by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Wandell, for quarterly meetings. Commissioner Yeager.
I've aged out of employment, so I can make any time, but I know some of our fellow commissioners will have to take vacation days for this, so I am not I don't mind it for myself, but for someone to take 4 vacation days, I think is a little excessive. I may make an amendment here in a minute, but I'm not ready to yet, but I think I would like to see maybe a semi-annual instead of 4 times a year, maybe an April, October. But I'll hold off on amendment.
Commissioner Vandergriff.
So I am actually one of those commissioners who would have to take 4 vacation days. And also, I have to take vacation days for the education requirement. So I would actually support going to a semi-annual, maybe April and October. So I would actually like to amend the motion, if possible, to semi-annual April and October.
Okay.
And I'll second that amendment.
A motion and a second to amend this to a April and October day meeting. Commissioner Beauchamp.
Yeah, I can agree to the 2 Mondays instead of the 4. I'm in court on Mondays, so that kind of puts me in a bind to try to be over here and be over there and have somebody replace me in court, so kind of puts me in a conflict. If it's 2, then I can probably arrange that, but it's hard for people that work during the day to make it to day meetings.
Commissioner Foster.
Yeah, and I would agree with a lot of the comments that they made. And I was just wondering too, if we did do a day meeting, if we started at like 1 o'clock where somebody wouldn't have to take the full day off, and then if it does run long, because I know the conversation was so we could go see some of the things that are going on in the county where they're already closed by the time we get here. So I know lunch was talked about, so you could do lunch at noon and then maybe 1 o'clock, but that was just some thoughts I had.
All right. All those in favor of the amendment to the motion to make this just an April and October meeting, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Raise your hand. So we got 3. Okay. 13 yes, 3 no. Amendment passes. So now we're voting on the amended motion for, which is now semi-annual day meetings. Any other discussion? Commissioner Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask the members of the Operations Committee who discussed this issue and vetted it, does going to semi-annual accomplish what you all were trying to accomplish when this was brought up in that committee? I don't know if that's a question for the chairman to answer, or the mayor, or whom. Because I heard some of the conversation, and I don't know if this reaches what y'all were trying to do.
The semi-annual would get part of the way there. You know, I understand about, commissioners that work during the day and have to take time off and all that. But, you know, when I first came on commission, and there's, what, 3 or 4 here that, when we used to have the daily, quarterly meetings, and we met a lot of different people and got to visit some areas that we had never visited before. You know, I think it's a good idea, and I support the semi-annual.
Any other discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Yes is to go to 2.
Could I ask for a clarification? Is that, what will be the start?
That
9
would,
o'clock or the 9 o'clock?
well, the motion was 9 a.m. for consent and 9:30 for the regular.
Okay.
So, yeah, we didn't,
Semi-annual.
yeah, starting in October. What's that? The motion, the amended motion now is to move to semi-annual day meetings, April and October, with a 9 a.m. public hearing portion and 9:30 regular agenda. Thirteen yes, 3 no, motion passes. So that'll start this October.
Okay, under old business, the strategic plan workshop will meet Thursday, October 26th, and Friday, October 27th, 2023. And that concludes the Operations Committee report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Isbell. Commissioner Yeager.
I don't believe we have a place or a facilitator yet, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, I didn't think we did, but I just want to make
Right,
sure.
And those dates are not set in concrete, especially the Thursday date. That is just to have you mark that on your calendar, protect those dates in case the strategic planner needs that Thursday afternoon.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Also.
Okay, next we've got HR Director Kim Jeffers Whitaker with the Human Resources and Risk Management Report.
Good evening. Tonight, I am on the agenda to deliver the HR Advisory Committee's suggestion for the Juneteenth holiday. First, I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you for allowing the HR Advisory Committee to discuss the matter, but most importantly, for allowing the employees to have some input. If you took the time to read their comments, they were very appreciative of that as well. You will find on pages 41 and 42 of your agenda packet the HR Advisory Committee's drafted minutes, which are in support of the inclusion of the Juneteenth holiday as an addition to the 2024 holiday calendar. And the express basis for the vote was centered upon the employees' comments that were also included in the comment from the holiday survey.
Commissioner Isbell.
Mr. Chairman, I think the really proper procedure to send this back to operations for discussion and take it through the proper channels. That's my only comment.
Yes. I'm good. How are you?
The graphs show that 92% say no, that's to replace the current holiday with Juneteenth. And then there is another graph that shows open to considering Juneteenth as a floating holiday. That one's also no, but you're basing it on the comments.
So what you're looking at is 97% does not want to float or replace the current July 4th 2-day. And then the second one, open to considering as a floating holiday, 85% does not, and 15% is in favor of participating in that. And if you read some of the comments, they even discuss not taking that additional July 4th day, but maybe switching out some of the others. So they've really done a great job in telling us all kind of what they would like to see. I'm very impressed with the employees' responses and appreciative of those.
Was there any discussion on the historical significance of Juneteenth holiday?
Yes, sir, there was,
And what
especially
did-
from the employees.
And what was that like?
The majority was, some of the ones, not the majority, some was even asking, you know, why are we asking the question? It is a new national holiday that they think it is important for the county to recognize, and in their opinion, that it should have been recognized long before now. So there were several comments in regards to that.
And what's the reason they were giving for the Juneteenth holiday?
I'm sorry.
Was it just like a feeling that it's good?
Oh.
Or was there like a, reason, a historical significance?
Yes, inclusion and equality was a lot of the basis of the reasons. You just have to read each one of them. There was
did.
various, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do they realize that their slaves were not set free on that date? Okay. Because what General Granger did was he released hostages. So it's not a date in which slaves were set free. There are only 3 dates which slaves were set free. That was January 1, 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation, and the end of the Civil War, April the 9th, 1865, when the Confederates surrendered. And then there's a date, the December the 9th, 1865, the ratification of the 13th Amendment. So the Juneteenth holiday is not a holiday that designates the end of slavery. It's a local event that happened in Texas, in which these people were held hostage for 2.5 years. But it doesn't have a historical significance as the date of slavery being ended in America. There's only 3 days for that, not Juneteenth.
Let me get
Did they talk
Commissioner,
about that?
let's go to Commissioner Palmer and then get Commissioner Vandergrift's motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I anticipate that at this workshop that we will be discussing staffing issues and such. And so, and I did notice that one of the employee comments is they would rather have the money. So I would like, if this is possible, you may already have it, but I would like to see in black and white a comparison, because I know there's this disparity of pay between public and private. So I'd like to see private and what we pay, job classification and pay, and compare that to like job classification and pay in the private sector. And I'd also like to see the benefit package that we offer, which is robust and nice, and how that compares to some of the businesses and their benefit package. And I'd like to have that information so that we can all be informed and make responsible decisions. And maybe, from this workshop, we need to look at pay, we need to look at the benefit package and such. So I'd like to have the time for us to be able to discuss this and not make a very rash or sudden decision without all of the information. Just a thought. Thank you, Commissioners.
Commissioner Vandergrift.
So I think I would like to make the motion to refer this back to the Operations Committee for
Okay.
discussion.
Motion and is to refer to operations, seconded by Chairman Isbell. Any other discussion? Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the last few months I've sat around this body and I've heard a lot of discussion about letting the committees do the work. This committee is the HR committee. It's made up of all the department heads. I attended the meeting. I'm not a member of that committee. I just wanted to kind of sit in and hear how the discussion went. I would suggest that any of the other commissioners that wanted to be there and give input, perhaps they could have made it, but I understand people have jobs too and they're working. But I'm in favor of this. This is simply giving an extra holiday to our employees. And I'll support moving it to operations again for more discussion, but it's just simply giving another holiday to our employees. It brings us to 14, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And and Kim and the committee talked a lot about the different counties and how many across the state and all. So there was good discussion. So I just wanted to add that. I'll support this motion to go back to operation, but just want all of us to be aware, all of the department heads were there to speak on this issue at that meeting. And their motion was to approve it and bring it to this body. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Wells.
Sure, and I do want to say, I think the appropriate course is to go to operations. This is a very important holiday to a lot of folks, I think throughout the nation, but speaking to about a dozen members of District 6, Black American and white American, this isn't something we need to just brush aside, but it's also, as commissioners, we've got a fiscal responsibility. It's something we need to discuss. The last point I do want to make, the HR committee, I understand and I respect the fact that we're listening to our committees, but that is the ultimate conflict of interest. I was the only voting member on there that's not a paid member of the county. So every one of those members that voted in favor of this, they get the day off as well. Again, I'm still on the fence. I'm leaning towards supporting this as a holiday, but to sit here and say we're going to respect the committee, well, the committee's all going to benefit by getting an extra day off. So that's.
Commissioner Varon.
Yeah, I support making it a full holiday. I mean, the federal government's doing it, state government's doing it. If you think that Anderson County's giving better benefits than the state or federal government, I think you just lost your mind. So, I mean, you know, I think the employees deserve the day off, and it should be honored. I mean, we're not here to discuss history or anything like that. It's a matter that was presented by the federal government. The federal government passed it. The state passed it. I think we should go along. I think our employees will be hurt and offended if we don't do this.
Commissioner Allen.
Yeah, I would like to see maybe something that happens significantly local as a holiday. You know, something that we all know that happened locally, not just something nationally. If you're going to add a holiday, make it something that's, you know, is significant to the people of Anderson County that we know about happened in our county that's very, very significant.
Mr. Chairman, a point of order. I just think that we're kind of getting off track here and not, we've got a motion to send it to operations in a second. And I just think that we're going down a rabbit trail here that I think we just need to vote on this and move forward.
Let me get the mayor real quick. And Commissioner Val's not spoken yet, and then we'll vote.
I just wanted to comment real quickly since we're having a discussion and debate about it. I don't think, I just wanted to defend the county here that I do not think this discussion is about inclusivity or not inclusivity. So this county does not have to recognize Martin Luther King Day. We do. We don't recognize Columbus Day, which is a federal holiday, and the banks are closed and the federal government's closed, but yet we're all here working on Columbus Day. Good Friday is not a federal holiday, and Anderson County government recognizes Good Friday and is closed on Good Friday. It is not a federal holiday for Christmas Eve, but Anderson County government recognizes Christmas Eve as a holiday. And we also don't have, federal government doesn't have 2 days for celebrating America's independence, and we do that. And I just want to kind of stress Commissioner Wandell's point about the committee process. I also have to defend a little bit on operations, because operations committee, and it was Chairman Anderson who made the motion that we not do one additional holiday, but that basically it go to HR to get polling, and that's why those questions were phrased that way. If we're gonna go Juneteenth, do you wanna give up the 4th of July, or do you want to go to the floating? So I think that's why there's this motion to go back to operations, is for operations, because their motion was originally, we're not adding another one, but we want to know what the employee's preference is. And so that's just to add a little clarity, and it wasn't a disrespecting of HR. HR came back with, instead of, well, which one do we want to do? They came back, well, we want one more. And so that's kind of a little explanation so that the committees are all still remaining friendly about that, so.
Commissioner Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just gonna pretty much say what the mayor just said, so I'll go along with Commissioner May's request and yield the rest of my time.
Go to
If
any
I
other.
could, if I
oh,
could just
Commissioner-
briefly.
I'm sorry.
If you read the employees' comments, the majority stated if it's a floating holiday or leave as is, it's leave as is. That was their choice. So, of course, they want the additional holiday, but if they have a choice, they prefer as is. Don't take their 2 days on the 4th, rather than taking it away and adding Juneteenth. Okay? So I'll add that to it.
Let's
Thank
go to the
you.
board and vote. Yes, to refer this to operations, back to operations. 15 yes, 1 no. Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we have the Fire Commission report. Chairman Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Fire Commission met on July 11th. Had a couple of items that came up. You don't have the Fire Commission meetings in your packet. You will have them the next meeting. We had a lot of information. We weren't able to get it all in, and we have most of it put together. First request was from the Fire Commission was each department proposed a request for $50,000 in ARPA funds in order to cover specific department needs. Motion was made and passed to present to the Budget Committee. I'll add a little extra to that. Each department gave a specific breakdown of their specific needs for each department and what that $50,000 would go to. And that would be for all 11 departments, including the municipalities, Oliver Springs, Norris, and Oak Ridge, and Clinton, I assume. So that was the motion, and I'd like to make a motion to move that to the Budget Committee for consideration, and I'll provide all the other supporting documents with it.
And a motion by Commissioner Wandell, seconded by Commissioner Beauchamp to forward that to refer to Budget Committee for the request from Fire Commission. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Next was a motion to support the mayor can say this better than mine. I'm gonna give it the acronym. What, LOSAP? Is that how you go? LOSAP program was discussed at length. Motion was made and passed to present to County Commission to support the program for county departments. Obviously, we have already supported the mayor in her request for this program. I just want all of you to know that the fire departments were in full support of this as well. So I'll make a motion to move it forward and allow the mayor to have those discussions.
Motion by Commissioner Wandell, seconded by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all. And then there was some discussion, and I know Nathan's going to talk about it going to budget, about the AEDs that will be going countywide. And I'll let Nathan obviously discuss that going in the Budget Committee, but he gave a great presentation. He had some representatives from Stryker make a presentation to all the fire chiefs, and they passed around the different types of units. So basically the theory is we get all new AEDs countywide, and Nathan will head that up as he's already doing, and I appreciate you doing that, Nathan. He'll come to the budget and make that presentation. I just want to give you that information. Last item, on Saturday, October 7th, there will be a countywide firefighter appreciation lunch. I believe that covers everything, Mr. Chairman. If anybody has any questions, let me know. Thank you. Where's the location, fellas, for that appreciation? Do we have a note yet? I'll get you the information. That's going to be in October, but I'll get it to you. Any other questions?
Good report.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it.
Okay, Director of Schools, Dr. Parrott.
I'll take any questions. Just to let you know, we're about a week out for the completion at Norris Middle School.
And they're still on, everything's still on track for Claxton. We're still, the surveys, they got to have a special survey so they don't have to have any, some kind of insurance. You have title insurance or something. I don't know what that means, but anyway, working on it. We're moving dirt at Clinton High School at the softball field, and we got a sinkhole at Clinton High School. We can't figure out what it is. It's about, on the back parking lot in the corner, it's about 25 foot deep. So we've been digging on it for about a week. So other than that, we're
Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr.
Are
Perry.
you trying to make a motion? Or? Oh, okay, yeah, you're good. Commissioner Wandell.
I'd be interested in this motion if you have. And you can delete that motion, I think. Actually, cancel. Yeah, there you go. I learned that just about 6 months ago, so it's nothing. Dr. Perry, on the school, I know it's kind of early, but how's the enrollment looking? Do you have that number yet?
No, we don't. We've rolled over. We really don't know anything. We won't know anything until we get kindergartners in. A lot of people don't sign up, and a lot of people move in the summer. So we have, our estimate is to be about the same, about 5,900, between 5,900 and 6,000.
Okay, and then as we get into school, you always are a big supporter of getting the flu shots, offering them anyway
Yes,
to the students,
yes.
and we'll do that again, I
Yes,
assume.
they've already got a date schedule and everything. We'll be sending out stuff on that.
And what about free lunches? Are we gonna be on target to do?
We've still got 2 more years on the one right now, and the 2 other schools are Anderson County High School and Norris Elementary. Those are only 2 schools. And the government's trying to, there's a new rule out there that they're working on, but we really don't know what that means yet for free lunch for everybody. So we hope that would be something that Congress would take up, but right now I don't think I think they got other things on their minds.
Right. And the last thing, and I appreciate the answers. You feel like we'll have a softball field next year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We're on, everything's on track to go. All the permits are in place and everything's working.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. I appreciate what you do.
Robbie, about a year ago, did we make a motion or pass, I think it was like a $80,000 cost for the lunches for Norris Elementary and the high school? Did we refer? We didn't, okay, we didn't vote on that, okay. Commissioner Allen.
Yeah, are you aware of Tennessee of SB 1059? That's a new Tennessee bill that requires you to do some reporting on your library books.
we have to put all of our library books online. All of our books are online, yes. Yeah, that was last year.
That was, this bill was approved July 1st.
I'm not sure what
SB
you're talking about.
Yeah, this is SB 1059 or HB 0841.
I'll have to look into it. We're going to a law institute on this Thursday and Friday, and all the new laws that go into effect,
Okay.
we'll get information on that.
And you ask about those 2 in particular, I would be interested in seeing, because you have to comply to that, and I just want to see how you are complying with those 2
I
new
will
laws.
look into it and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Yeager.
Do you have enough teachers for this coming year?
We still need 2 math teachers at Anderson County High School and a French teacher at Clinton High School, and other than that, I think we're fully staffed. Last year, we had almost a little over 100 new teachers. This year, we're about 58. So
That's what I was gonna ask, the turnover, that's a lot better than.
Lot
Okay.
less, yes.
All right, thanks.
Commissioner Vandergriff.
I just had a question about the 3rd grade retention.
Yes.
You had spoke about that, I think, last month.
Right.
Where are we with
So-
that now?
So out of the students we had, and I should have brought my notes, we had 73 that got an appeal, their appeal was approved. We had another 60-something that went to camp, went to summer. Out of that, there was about 20 of those students that got, you have to get a gain, a 5% gain, which is really crazy when you try to get a 5% gain in 4 weeks, and an AMO is less than 5% for the whole year, so it was really unrealistic. But out of that, so there was about 10 to 15 students, I think, that got that. And so they won't have to do anything. The other, about 45 to 50 students will have to do tutoring, but we've already got that built into the schedule. And as of last week, there was 3 students that had the possibility of being retained. And those were the ones that the parents, we reached out to them and they didn't choose to do anything. So it wasn't on our part, it was on theirs.
Any other questions for Dr. Parrott? Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
County Mayor, Mayor Frank.
Thank you, Commissioners. And to reiterate your comments, the 3 candidates for the juvenile judge were just, I'm so proud to live in this county with 3 excellent candidates like that, just amazing. The first item on the agenda, I'm going to request if Commissioner Isbell would come down. We know that Commissioner Denenberg had to step down, and we welcome Commissioner Wells to this body, but we did not, with her leaving the state, we did not have an opportunity to honor her with a resolution. And I know Commissioner Isbell worked closely with her on during COVID. They were frickin' frack and working so hard out there in the community. So I thought it would be appropriate if he read her resolution. And then we have, she is excited about this, and we are going to be FedExing the original resolution to her first thing tomorrow. So she will get it.
Thank you, Mayor. If I can do this without breaking down, it'd be a miracle. But Catherine and I were really close. And, you know, although we sat on 2 different sides of the aisle, when the pandemic came, we worked together. I mean, she was at my shop. She was running a milling machine. She'd run a sander. She was making calls. We was going to the EMS trying to help them out. We worked for the law director and the building inspector to make this one of the safest buildings that there is, along with the schools. I mean, it was just countless. I mean, we just stopped doing what we were doing for almost a month and just contributed doing this to the highway patrol. I mean, everybody. And, you know, she just knew how to contact people and get donations. We made these gowns. I had some old material, you know, from 3M, some surgical gowns when there was a shortage of that. And we made, I don't know, we got the material out and I made about 1,000 of them. She did that with somebody else. But it was just remarkable. And then, of course, if I ever got under the weather, she'd just bring me that soup. I mean, you talking about, and it worked too, I'm telling you. But, you know, she's just a really great person. And she got to even, when I'd go out and make sales calls and doing some engineering work, she'd even go with me. I mean, that was just her. She was just great about that. She could look at something, and we went in one automotive factory and looked at some stuff. And I mean, you'd have thought that she was a degreed engineer. And that's what the engineers we was working with thought about her. And I thought, yes, she is. Yeah, in my mind, she is. But I'm going to read this. A resolution it's resolution number 23-07-1121, a resolution honoring Commissioner Catherine Denenberg. Whereas Catherine Denenberg represented voters in District 6 since she unanimously was appointed by the Anderson County Commission in early 2018 to fill the remainder of the unexpired term of former Commissioner Harry Whitey Hitchcock. And whereas Catherine brought a wealth of knowledge to the position, to which she was formally elected in the summer of 2018 and re-elected a second time in 2022. She continued to serve until April 2023, when family priorities necessitated to move to Florida. And whereas Catherine Denenberg was an active, engaged member of the Anderson County Commission, she proudly represented residents of the city of Oak Ridge and all of Anderson County, willingly sharing her knowledge and passion for the environment and history. As chairwoman of the county's Intergovernmental Committee, Catherine was a leader in communications with the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation and the Tennessee Valley Authority concerning the future of the Bull Run plant and its impact on the community. Additionally, Catherine served as a member of numerous county committees, such as the Audit Committee, Budget Committee, Nonprofit Committee, Veterans Service Advisory Committee, and the Human Resource Advisory Committee. Catherine also participated in efforts to have the Anderson County Poor Farm site in Claxton, recognized by Tennessee Historical Commission as a local site of historic importance. And whereas, with a real estate background spanning 35 years, Catherine understood the needs of those in the community. And whereas, Catherine very often presented innovative ideas to bring people together for greater good. For example, when she spearheaded the Clinton 12 Commemorative Walk in August 2019, when she and myself worked to secure donations for masks and helmets to protect citizens against COVID-19. And whereas, in addition to her service as Anderson County official, Catherine previously had also served as a member of the Anderson County Board of Equalization. She was also proud to serve as vice president of the Oak Ridge Anderson County NAACP. Now therefore be it resolved, the Anderson County's Board of Commissioners wish to recognize Catherine Denberg for her years of service to Anderson County, her unwavering dedication to her community and its residents, and her willingness to visit and communicate with various county departments so she could understand and advocate for their needs in serving our community. We all heartily join together in thanking Catherine for her strength of character and voice of reason, as well as her friendship and guidance. And the challenges that face Anderson County during her time of service. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? She's got a big German Shepherd, so I feel sorry for the guy delivering that to her, because he hates delivery drivers.
Yeah,
but-
Annie.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
She does. We got to see the dog on many a Zoom call during
Yeah,
COVID and hear him. The action item, Public Records Commission, reappointment of Commissioner Tim Isabel. According to the statute for Public Records Commission, this term runs concurrent to the member's term of office. Therefore, term expires 9/2026.
Motion and a second. Commissioner Mays?
Would it be appropriate to approve 2 through 5 as a group, or do they have to be individual?
No, as a group is fine.
That would be my.
Is that your motion?
I'll stay with my second.
Any discussion on approving 2 through 5? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Next, Anderson County is a participant in the state of Tennessee's 3-star program. This is housed in Economic and Community Development, and it does make Anderson County eligible for savings on various grants and reduced match. And annually, we are required, I'm required to get 3 motions passed. Those are there, if we could get those done individually, because I do have to submit the minutes. The first motion is an approval of a motion acknowledging that the county mayor has reviewed with county commission the county's debt management policy that is currently on file with the comptroller of the Treasury Office. And this went out with your agenda packets. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. I thought Robbie was, yes, Robbie's still here. Robbie is also here if you have any questions about the debt policy. This was last updated in 2021 when there are changes that occur, or sometimes if the finance policy wants to address something through the finance committee, we will, note those changes, but currently no changes are required. So that's in your packet, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Motion for approval by Commissioner Yeager, seconded by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The next, again, with this 3-star program, is an approval of a motion that the county mayor and county commission acknowledge that an annual cash flow forecast must be prepared and submitted to the comptroller prior to issuance of debt. And this is it ensures that you are aware that we have the funds necessary if you approve debt, and it's just one of those checks and balances where you know, your finance director or your mayor or the schools or someone might come to you for debt, and then there's no money to fund that debt. So it's basically part of that process so that you understand what you're doing when you have the vote.
Got a motion and motion by Commissioner Yeager, seconded by Commissioner McCamey. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And the last is approval of motion that the county mayor and county commission acknowledge that all offices are required to have documented systems of internal controls.
Got a motion by Commissioner McCamey, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote.
Mr. Chairman, really quick.
Commissioner.
It says internet controls, I'm not
Oh,
trying to be a stickler, but if it goes into the minutes, I just wanted to make sure that Annette puts in internal.
Okay. I have it on my mayor's report itself says internal, so I'll follow up with Annette. Was that on her cover sheet?
It was on the agenda.
So it might have just, when she transferred it over, it's probably a typo. We do have some internet controls.
That motion, that passed unanimously
Okay,
also.
thank you.
Yep.
The next item, the City of Clinton in May, this is in your agenda packet, submitted a request for funding, and that request came in too late for May's budget meeting. So we did place this letter in the June meeting, and the discussion in June was for this discussion to take place in July. And I'm bringing this request to you just because the city has gone out to bid. And I don't know if you want me to read all of this, but because of a lack of the budget amendments following the recent and new passage of the annual budget, Budget Committee was canceled for July. Officials from the city let us know they are currently in the bid process, and I do have those numbers actually. They've come in since I submitted to the agenda deadline, and I'll read those numbers to you. But they initially anticipated the cost would be approximately $655,000. They were requesting 50% of the cost, or $327,500, whichever is less. That is, if the bids come in less than $655,000, Anderson County's share would be no more than 50%. As Budget Committee was canceled, I wanted to bring this to Commission in good faith, as our expectation was to address that at July's meeting. And the City of Clinton has inquired of some of our commissioners as well. So in reviewing the funds, which this is what was discussed at Budget Committee, was that we would look at we would explore possible sources of revenue. There are available funds from unassigned fund balance, ARP funds, or there are sufficient funds in a code reserve for industrial purposes with a current balance of $1,175,935.12. In reviewing with the finance director, the recommendation is to utilize Fund 101-34685-1000. That's that industrial fund, as this request best fits the purpose of the industrial nature of the funds in this code. As the City of Clinton is in the midst of the bid process, I'm requesting a motion to authorize commitment of funds for 50% share, or up to $327,500, or if this request is out of order, a motion that Anderson County intends to match funding with the full authorization to go through Budget Committee at August Budget Committee meeting. And that letter is in your packet, specifically the section about the industrial road. This is for, it's on page, I think both of them are marked page 3 on their letter, but it's actually page 2. So it notes the city of Clinton has historically funded the maintenance needs for J.D. Yarnell Industrial Parkway, Carden Farm Drive, and Frank Diggs Drive within budgetary limitations. 6 years ago, based on the growth and expansion of SL Tennessee facilities in the Clinton I-75 Park, Clinton requested and received Anderson County's assistance for resurfacing Frank Diggs Drive. In 2018, the city of Clinton completed the resurfacing of Carden Farm Drive, funding the project from capital outlay funds. J.D. Yarnell Industrial Parkway in the Eagle Bend Industrial Park is in need of resurfacing within the next 3 to 6 months, and you know the estimate, I shared that with you. There are no state or TDOT funds available for the project as there have been in the past, so the work would need to be funded locally. And they are requesting Anderson County's assistance. The bids did open, and they had 2 bids for the work. DuraCap was $984,000, and Rogers Group was $822,398.85. So it was considerably higher than their estimates. But anyhow, I'm bringing that to you all for contemplation, discussion, possible motion.
And what was your motion, Commissioner McCamey?
To approve up to 50% of the bid out of the industrial money.
Seconded by Commissioner Allen. Discussion, Commissioner Isbell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This fund, is that what's being financed by the 1/2 cent tax levy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. For industrial. And I believe that's where the one contribution for the last time the paving, we took it out of that as well.
I know at one time when we first done it, it was supposed to be just to buy property. And of course, we took money out of that to buy Chromebooks. You know, we moved to half-penny, which that really, when the pandemic hit, we made a good move there.
Yep.
But, all right, that's what I want to know. Thank you.
Commissioner Mays.
Yeah, Mayor or Robbie, what other kind of projects can be used or can be done with those funds?
Well, I think Jay would probably, he has opined before, if it has something that can fit that industrial purpose. So I know, for instance, we funded, when Anderson County made a commitment to TCAT in order to do workforce development, we utilized those funds. So that was for the Roan State TCAT facility. And we funded equipment with that. We also funded the updating of one of the facilities in the north end of Anderson County in order to allow workforce training to occur there. And so that went through, it was being managed by CETA. It was a partnership with Anderson County School Systems. So it, you know, it wasn't land, but it fit that industrial purpose, that industrial need. And Jay, is there anything else to add to that?
What about sewer installation, any kind of infrastructure, you know, specifically sewer or repair of water lines or whatever? Can those funds go towards that as well?
It's going to have to be an industrial purpose, but I'll be glad to look at that question for you. But the way I remember the law, we're going to have to show an industrial nexus.
And some of that too, Commissioner Mays, would depend on, you know, so if it's, I mean, are you, well, I think we did a match, for instance, for Norris on an industrial access road. And so we helped them cover the match for that in order to better serve those businesses that were entering the industrial park. We did a road match for them. That was, Commissioner Anderson, two years ago?
I think, yeah, at least, probably,
Yep.
for Sawmill Road, yeah.
Yep.
And just lastly, I would just be curious, do we have any idea how much Clinton has in their fund balance?
don't.
It's healthy, I mean, we know that.
Yes, yeah.
Very healthy. Okay. That's all I have.
I would hate to speak out of turn, because I don't remember exactly.
Commissioner Beauchamp.
I was gonna say basically the same thing that Commissioner Mays was gonna say. I think the city of Clinton is doing better than they ever have. But my worry about this is if we go up here and pave the city of Clinton, we're not under any MOU with them to have to pave the road and keep up the upkeep of city roads. That's their job. Is the other city entities, one that I live in, will say, well, you did it for the city of Clinton. Oak Ridge needs it. City of Rocky Top needs it. The city of Norris needs it. The city of Oliver Springs needs it. So that's my only thing, is we're gonna step over a cliff and it's gonna be never ending and we're not gonna be able to climb back up. This is the start of it right here.
Commissioner McCamey. Oh, I'm sorry, did you?
Oh, no, I mean, point well made and taken, and, you know, my job as mayor is to bring these requests to you all, and I do believe commission keeps in mind all of these various needs, and you all do a good job, I think, of kind of dividing things out. You know, everyone can bring something, but you kind of take turns on, it's this community's turn, or we're gonna do this for this particular district. And so those are your decisions, and, I guess I'm saying that you may do something, I mean, maybe even it's a tax abatement or approving a TIF. Those are funds that are not received they freeze the property taxes for our school system for 20 years or 30 years. Sometimes that is a greater contribution than even a payment for a purpose. So all of those things just have to be balanced.
Commissioner McCamey.
Yeah, this industrial park was a joint thing between Anderson County and the city of Clinton originally. Our ACETA director and our recruiter was the one that got all these industries in there. And for every dollar that the city of Clinton gets in taxes, we get 3. So I feel like this is, it's part of continuing that. Like I said, it was a joint effort between the county and the city to build the industrial park. So, I just feel like that we have a responsibility to keep it up, keep that partnership up. And like I said, we get $3 to every one the city gets. And they're willing to go 50-50 here, so, it really ought to be 75-1.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes, Robbie, this question for you. We put $265,000 back into this account from that we did not use for TCAP, and that balance includes that 265, correct? Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Smallridge.
Mayor, I assume funds continue to come into this account?
Yes.
And about how much on an annual basis would you say?
That's a Robbie question, and I did ask him, he won't have that. 96,000 last year, so another 96 will come in, or approximately.
I guess I'll comment that I think it sounds like an industrial project like this, a good idea to work with Clinton City.
Commissioner Isbell.
Let me speak second time, Mr. Chairman. And I've had constituents actually come into the shop and comment about the same things that Commissioner Mays and Commissioner Beauchamp has spoken about. And again, this fund comes from the taxpayers. It initially was a 1 cent, and then we moved to ½ cent. So now that's why there's annual money that come into that, because taxpayers is paying for it.
Any other, Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The motion on the floor is just to do the 327,500 or 50%.
Up to 327.5, is that right?
Yeah, up to.
Yeah, so it'd be the max, 327.5 is the maximum since the, is that right?
No,
It says or.
it came in at 822, so it'd be 411.
Oh, okay, I thought it says it was up to 327.5.
That was only the estimate. When the actual
Oh,
bid
okay.
came in, it was 822. My motion was to go 50%.
Okay, so the motion's for
822.
50, okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, I got a question for Jay. Jay, I guess my concern is, if we get involved with this and we fund this, does it set in motion the idea that we're gonna begin a maintenance of effort there? Do you feel we need some type of agreement, versus us just getting a letter and sending the money? I mean, I feel like we need some type of MOU that outlines each other's responsibilities.
Sure, there is actually a document when we developed that industrial park. I'd like to refresh my memory on that. It's been some time, way before I came here, but I've seen that document. But I'll be glad to draft a document if you so desire, but I don't think, there's not gonna be a maintenance of effort.
Okay, I just don't wanna later get hamstringed into saying, well, you took the responsibility when you funded it. And then there's a couple things in this letter, Mayor, that it mentioned from ACETA that we would get as a local government, and it's not in this motion, obviously, and we can come back to that if you want. I'm good to do that, but I want to get those numbers they offered up to each of the legislative bodies, the city of Clinton and the county, and understand what the impact is from the industrial parks. I'd love to see that, and it would have been handy to have now. And then the last item is, there's some additional language in that letter that talks about some signalization projects out at that area, and it's asking us for another 200,000. Is that not obviously this motion is separate, but are we talking about that too, or is that?
We're not talking about that. That will go back as a topic of discussion for Budget Committee.
Okay.
So, but, they were asking because they had gone out to bid on the roads. So that's why I came to you with this.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be in support of the funding if we have a MOU of part of the motion. But if we don't have it part of the motion, I'll vote no. Thank you.
Commissioner Yeager.
I need a little history lesson here. When this park was built, had it already been annexed by Clinton?
Yes.
So they've owned it the whole time? I mean, okay. All right, thanks.
Commissioner Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And some of us were asking the question, and I continued reading. The last sentence of one of those paragraphs also says, we would suggest, this is coming from the city, we would suggest that each government calculate and compare revenue, property tax proceeds from these industrial parks and adjust the percentage of participation accordingly. And the reason that they wrote that was, going forward, they say in the sentence before, we would like to agree on a plan to share these costs for future major infrastructure needs. So this is an ongoing cooperative partnership that the city would like to ask for us to consider. Folks, I'm not ready to do that right now.
And I'm not asking that.
I understand.
You saw that there is no language in my letter that says that.
Motion.
Yeah, I understand, but just based on seeing where that's going, I would like to have further discussions with them, to Commissioner Wandell's point, to get exactly what it is we can or cannot do. So I'll be a no vote on this tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wells.
I'll keep it brief. Just here to Commissioner Beauchamp. This is going to open a can of worms, and I can already tell you I'm going to come back next month with some ideas for Oak Ridge to spend some of that money. $100 million we need for our roads to get up to par, Commissioner Yeager? Yes, yeah. And how much do we put in versus everybody else? But that being said, also, out of respect, going back to Commissioner Foster, Commissioner Val, being champions of this, really appreciate you bringing it forth. I see the urgency, but this needs to go through the Budget Committee process before we make any rash decisions. Again, it goes back to that contract we were surprised with for the purchase of Claxton School. All in favor of it. Don't ask me as a representative of 10,000 people in District 6 to jump in and commit to spending $300,000 on the fly tonight. Again, I wish this would go before budget and we decide on it in August. So.
Any other discussion?
I do want to say a couple of things about Clinton does provide a measure of services. So, I mean, you look at, for instance, our jail, our EMS headquarters, Anderson County High School. They do provide fire coverage at no cost to the county for those services. They do partner with the county many times for costs such as that. The animal shelter is an example. They gave us property for 40 years for $10. You know, there's always, Commissioner Wells, it always goes back to this give and take. There are things that we don't always, when we're bringing something, there's some historical background too. It's not just, you know, who has the guts to come up and ask for some money. There's lots of ongoing partnerships that take place as well, so.
Commissioner McCamey.
My motion was to go the 50%. And, you know, like I said, we're partners with the city of Clinton on that industrial park. We're not partners with the city of Oak Ridge on the industrial park. We're not partners with anybody in Oliver Springs or Lake City or Norris. This was our industrial park, even though it's in the city limits of Clinton. Now, I remember taking money out of the industrial code and buying a building in Rocky Top and gave it to the city of Rocky Top out of the industrial money. Remember that, Tim? Because we felt that that building could be used for industry, and we gave it to the city of Lake City. Paid for it 100% by county industrial funds. This is industrial fund, and that's what it's set up for. We agreed to put that 1.5 cents in to let it build up to buy more land for future industrial. The problem in Anderson County is there's no land available for industry. We need additional land, we just can't find it to buy. And since the money is there and it is for industrial, I don't see why we can't take it out tonight and use it for that purpose. It's our industrial park. It's not the city of Clinton's, even though it's in the city limits of Clinton. Thank you.
Commissioner Isbell.
Thank you. It took a third time. But it's not that I'm against giving the money, but I think it should go through the budget process. And I think there should be an agreement of what we're doing. Because we've got an agreement now, you know, for fire department at the interstate that had never, you know, come forward. But I agree with Commissioner Wandell. You know, let's do an agreement, and then for the money to come out of that, I would agree to that. But just do the agreement and go through budget first.
No other discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Yes is for 50%. Six yes, 9 no, motion fails.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner White is showing absent.
Oh.
I thought he was off the line. Okay.
Do you want to vote out loud?
I vote yes.
So it's 7 yes, 9 no.
I'll go back and dig through our archives. I've got something on additional development of that, bring back. Might take some time, but we'll find that original agreement.
Okay, the other item, the other request I have is the Norris City Council has confirmed and recommended officially that Norris City Manager Adam Ledford serve on the Solid Waste Committee. If I could get a motion to confirm.
Glad to have you.
They've not had anybody show up to those meetings for a while, have they? Yeah.
We had to call 3 meetings to conduct
Do we
business.
need a motion to refer that back?
I was gonna make one as soon as this was over.
As soon as this, any discussion on the appointment of Adam Ledford to the Solid Waste Board? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously. Make a motion. Got a motion, Commissioner McCamey.
Yeah, it's refer the, $411,000 request from the city of Clinton to the budget committee with, Jay developing a memorandum of understanding.
Motion and a second by Commissioner Wandell. Any discussion on referring this, referring the motion to Budget Committee? This is refer item 9, the cost sharing of the industrial park back to budget, or to budget. Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I know we have the, on the Gale Harness case, the request for an executive session that won't take very long, but I think you moved that to the end, correct?
We actually kept it at item 11 here at the, before we go into the law director report, but.
Oh, okay.
Commissioner Wandell, did you have a question for?
Yes, Mayor, I can't remember if we did 30 days or 60 days, but you had asked for extension for the waste management contract.
It should, they emailed me that they should have had their final draft by Friday. I did not receive it, so I've expected it any day. And I did tell Robbie that as soon as we got it, I mean, we'll have it in plenty of time for purchasing, but I did let Robbie know that as soon as we had it, I would send it out to commission in advance. That way there's plenty of time, even prior to just the required purchasing agenda deadline.
I guess I'm just curious. I mean, it seems like we're kind of in limbo with the contract, and I don't know what the contract says as it relates to the time expiration. I mean, I think we as a body agreed to give 30 days. I think we've since passed 30 days.
60 days.
Okay.
60 days.
Thank you. That's,
yes.
Okay.
Because we had, I originally was thinking 30, but I knew with the 4th of July holiday, government, their own holiday schedules, I asked for 60. So we
Okay.
got 60.
Okay, thank you for clarification. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Is that what, I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll need a motion and a vote to go into executive session, and then we're gonna take a very short recess while they're clearing that. Got a motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Yeager to go into executive session. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote.
Need time to smoke.
Yeah. We got at least one no. Are we vote, Commissioner Isbell? Oh, you're voting. 15 yes, okay. Let's take a quick recess while they're getting the room cleared.
I was up at Waffle House the other day, Clinton offered, and then the employee said, hey, I'm glad you're here, something, whoa, we just